so that you know what is a comfortable range of questions for you to attempt. So this is basically about prelims, and this is what I did in my second attempt, the 2019 attempt, where I attempted I think around 85 plus questions, and that I feel is what made the difference. So this is the only tip I can give for prelims. Otherwise, it's just the syllabus and all. I don't want to go into that because I'm sure you'll be able to look it up easily on the internet. uh, and lots of people have shared their strategies, lots of coaching institutes. Yes. I forgot to mention, I also did coaching, classroom coaching for 9 months, for GS, general studies, not for any optional coaching, because I already had a strong background in economics. So to the next stage now, mains. So I'll finish my thing. I'll give whatever talk I have to give, and then we can move on to the questions on whichever stage people have questions. So let's talk about mains. So mains is actually what decides whether you make it, you clear this exam or not, because that is where the majority of the chunk, the marks lies. So mains is probably the most important stage of this exam. So first thing I'd like to talk about is answer writing. So people stress a lot on doing answer writing, which is important, of course. Answer writing is one of the key things that has to be done. Uh, but what I would say is don't get into answer writing from the very first day itself. People usually, there are lots of websites, people they give newspaper article links, and then they try and frame a question out of that. So usually when we're just starting our preparation, we don't really know much about, well, we haven't studied the basic subjects, so we don't really have a lot of background or base to write answers. So in that situation, it's good to actually spend some time and do at least some of the basic subjects first, like polity, history, geography, economics, maybe environment, and try and build up some content that you can use in your answers. Going into answer writing from the first day itself is not a very good idea. That is what I feel personally. But of course, after you have spent maybe 2 3 months doing the basic books and getting a good hang of the current affairs, then after that you should definitely start doing some answer writing practice. So that is one thing. Don't get into it very early, but after you have built up some knowledge base, definitely it's important to do answer regular answer writing practice. Second thing is about the optional. So optional, optional is something which is very personal and person centric. Each person has to introspect and decide based on their interests and their abilities. So for me, it was not a very difficult choice because I had spent a good 5 years studying economics. So for me, it was a very natural choice. But for a lot of engineering students that I've seen, a lot of them prefer to go for not their graduation subject. For whatever reasons, the syllabus might be quite long, or it might be difficult. I'm not really very familiar with the engineering optionals, but a lot of people prefer to go for other humanities optionals. So that is a valid choice, but again, it'll depend. What you want to choose will depend on what your interests are. So don't go by what your friend has suggested, or you see something on the internet that this is a more scoring optional or this is a less scoring optional. It keeps changing every year. So you can never go by past trends. Or you can see that this year the topper has scored this much in optional, this optional, so I'll take that optional. But that can be a very risky strategy. So when you are trying to choose your optional, first look at some of the past year papers to see if you can at least, I mean, if you have any interest in the subject or not. I'm sure you have a lot of electives in your courses also. So maybe depending on what you are interested in, you can try and choose between which options you would like to pursue. And this is something that should you should decide in the initial layers of your preparation. I mean, at a quite early stage, maybe 2 3 months into your preparation, because the optional is something which finally decides what your rank and what service you get, and whether you clear the exam at all or not. So choosing the right option is very important, I feel. And third thing about mains I'd like to tell you all is basically time management during the mains exam itself. Time management during the preparation is a different thing, and that depends a lot on what kind of preparation style or what kind of study style you have developed over your student life. So I will not go too much into that, but during the exam, that is something I feel is quite important. So I'm sure you all know that the exams are quite lengthy, all the mains exams, and it can be a struggle to really finish all the papers finally. But what I feel is you should try and complete the paper as much as you can. Try and complete. There are 20 questions in the general studies paper at least. So try and do all the 20 questions. So it's better to do write 20 average answers, or instead of writing 10 very good answers and then leaving 5 answers completely blank. So that is sure to lose you a lot of marks if you go for that strategy. So when you are doing any sort of answer writing practice or writing mock exams for mains exam, try and keep this time management thing in mind as well. It's very important to complete the mains exam. So these are the three main important things I had to tell you about the mains exam. And finally, about the personality test. The personality test is probably the easiest. I mean, I wouldn't say the easiest, but it's probably the least complicated out of all the stages. So you already have, if you made it through the interview stage, you already have a good chunk of knowledge. You've been reading the basic books, you've studied the newspaper properly, so you already have a lot of information in your mind. So the only thing to keep in mind is when you are filling your detailed application form, the DAF, be very truthful in that. There's no need to lie or exaggerate. The UPSC is not looking for any special kind of people that uh, they'll be impressed if you try and make up some stuff on your DAF. Whatever, truthful, uh, be as truthful as you can, and whatever you have to write about yourself. And once you've written that and you are preparing for the interview, prepare on those aspects very well, because you are expected that you should know everything about yourself. Whatever you've written on the detailed application form, you should at least have some idea about whatever you're writing. So whatever hobby you're talking about, you should be genuinely actually practicing that hobby, and you shouldn't be making some stuff up. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated or fancy like stamp collecting. I mean, it can be as simple as watching movies, what kind of movies you like to watch, whatever you actually do in your free time. Uh, so prepare questions on your DAF. You can try and predict what kind of questions the board might ask on various aspects of your DAF, and then a little practice on that. And apart from that, you will be reading the newspapers regularly anyway, so they can ask you current affairs questions. So that is not something that is very difficult. So that is all I had to share, and I'll be happy to answer any specific questions that anybody has. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Guys, please ask your questions. You can unmute yourself. You can put it in chat. Um, whatever questions you have, this is the time you can actually interact with an IAS officer and ask your
Good
questions.
morning, sir. Good
Good
morning, ma'am.
morning.
Good morning.
Sir, I am in third year of my engineering, and I am planning to start my preparation after joining a job, so that I could have a balance in my life, like financially. So what should be what should be my first thing to ace in this exam? How should I proceed with the preparation? I saw many videos, but all those thing came different to me. Some people are doing NCRT 6 to 12, but some says that 11 12 is enough. So how could I know that what is enough for me?
So again, like I said, there are thousands of people who crack the exam every year, so everybody's strategy will be different. So there is no one strategy. Uh, Generally, some people recommend doing NCRT 6 to 12. But I feel that's too much, because a lot of the concepts that are taught in class 6th, they are sort of again repeated in class ninth, maybe again repeated in 11th and 12th. So if you have lost touch with your basic studies, if it's been a long time and you are not very familiar with it, then you can go back to your lower class NCRTs, and maybe it'll help a little. But I feel you won't really have so much time, especially because you are saying that you want to go for a job as well and prepare along with that. So ideally, you won't really have time to do all the 6 to 12 NCRTs. They are good for a basic first time reading, but you need to keep on revising things again and again for this exam. So you won't have the time to do that with the NCRTs. So what you should do, what I did, I will not say what you should do. What I did was I only did NCRTs for a few subjects, and that too only 11th and 12th. And uh, I'm sure you'll be. I mean, there are certain standard books. So for example, for polity, there's Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant is considered. It's considered enough for what UPSC is trying to ask us, at least in the further prelim stage. So for polity, I feel you don't really need to go into the 6 to 12 or even 11th and 12th class NCRTs. Again, it will depend a lot depending on subject. So for geography, 11th and 12th NCRT is a must. So uh, I mean, initially it can feel a little daunting that there's so much to study and what to study. But I would recommend you said you are in your third year, so start with reading the newspaper first. At least get into the habit of reading the newspaper on a daily basis. That is something that is very important. And after that, slowly you can pick up the standard books in each subject, and see how you are faring. And after that, if you feel the need that you need to supplement it with some other books, you can do that. But again, I will emphasize that focus on one book and try and read it 4 times instead of doing just one reading of 4 different books. So very important to keep on revising things.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
Any other question?
Guys, any more questions?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat box, or you can
Hello,
unmute.
sir. Hello,
Hello.
sir. This
Hello.
is Sharda. I am in the second year of my graduation.
Yes.
So, the major challenge I found is we have nobody to clear our doubts regarding this preparation. When it comes
Hmm.
to NCRT, when I read NCRT, there are a lot of doubts arising, but I couldn't find anyone to clear my doubts. So,
See, the best way to go about that, if you I mean, there's a lot of information available on the internet these days, but it's quite possible that you may have doubts and you might require someone personal attention as well. So in that case, either maybe you could talk to somebody, some of your seniors who might have cleared or prepared before earlier, or even if that is not possible, then I would recommend that joining a coaching is also not a bad idea, because at least it gives you a mentor, some support system who can at least clear doubts like you are saying. So if that is possible, you can maybe look into going for a coaching as well.
okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, is it a good idea that we start preparation together
Good.
with the graduation?
Hmm? During
Uh,
graduation, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
starting direction.
it's not a
Happen.
bad idea. You can at least, like I said, you can at least read the newspaper. That is not going to hurt in any case. And maybe you can start with reading the basic books. But I mean, I feel it's important to focus on your graduation also,
Okay,
because
sir.
you shouldn't neglect your graduation to prepare solely for the civil service exam. Because I'm sure you all know that this I mean, it's not a very straightforward. It's quite an uncertain exam. So there's no guarantee that you will clear the exam. So it's good to have completed your graduation properly. So at least you have alternate opportunities as well. So you can start preparation, but don't neglect your graduation to focus on the civil service exam.
I think Naman was trying to ask a question.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good
Okay,
morning. Yes, please
sir.
ask your question.
Personally, I would like to know little about your background. Yeah,
About my
personally, I'd like to know a little more about your background. Like, are you background? Like, are you from engineering background or not? And
no,
secondly,
I mentioned I have done my bachelor's and master's in economics. I'm not from an engineering background. I've done my bachelor's and master's in economics from Delhi University.
okay, okay, sir. So secondly, since I am a second year engineering student, what would you recommend? For a second year engineering student now, like I am not sure whether I would like to go for UPSC, but it's my parents, who keep telling me to aim for UPSC. So, what is your recommendations? Like,
So,
how
like
should
I
you
said, if you are not sure, it
go
is
for UPSC?
better to focus on your graduation
Um,
because doing that properly is good. But at the same time, you can maybe develop the habit of reading a newspaper because I think that is not going to hurt anyway. That is a good habit and it will help you anywhere else. Even if you are, say, going for something else, say you're trying to do an MBA, then also you are, say, during the interview stage, you are expected to be aware of what is happening in the world. So reading the newspaper is not a bad idea anyway. So you can start doing that, and maybe you can simultaneously look at some of the previous year papers and look at the syllabus to see if you actually want to try and go for the civil service exam. Okay.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have a question from Aman
Yes.
Saini. So he wants to know how much time on a daily basis he should dedicate for the preparation.
See, again, that is very subjective, depends on person to person. You will not be able to give, say, like 8 to 10 hours every day. That is not possible at all. So, in my first attempt, I used to try around 5 6 hours at least every day. And when the exams are closer, then naturally you study more. So, 1 week before prelims, I mean, most people are studying around 10 12 hours, but that is natural when the exams, I'm sure, even in your engineering exams, 2 3 days before the exams, you're studying a lot. But on an average, around 5 6 hours is sufficient, I would say.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Anyone else? Any?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how to make note from NCRT coming to geography? When I read sixth standard geography, the same thing is repeating in the seventh and eighth
So
standard
that's what
also.
I said. It's better. I didn't do 6 to 12 geography. I only did 11th and 12th because there's a lot of repetition. And
Yes.
usually, I personally did not make a lot of notes. One, because I had never made notes during my school and college time also. So I was not really in the habit of making notes. And also because, I mean, personally, I did not have a lot of time. In my second attempt, I was also already working somewhere, so I didn't have a lot of time to make notes. I just used to mostly underline the important stuff in the books and write some stuff in the margin that I felt important. But if you've been making notes, I think you should continue with that because it helps a lot, especially in the main stage when you have a lot of things to revise quickly. But again, regarding that specific point, there's a lot of repetition. Yes, there's a lot of repetition. So if you feel there's too much, you can skip the lower classes and focus only in the 11th and 12th NCRTs. That is enough for geography.
Sir, what about history? Do we need to make note from sixth standard also?
No, there's a lot of again for most subjects. There's a lot of repetition. So I personally did not do any sixth class, sixth to eighth, ninth, tenth. I didn't do any NCRTs. I only focus on the 11th and 12th NCRTs. That is usually sufficient
Okay,
because you
sir.
don't need to know a lot of in-depth knowledge. You just need to know basic stuff.
Okay, sir.
All
Thank
is
you.
like that.
Hello, sir. I have one more question.
Yes, please.
Sir, since you are in the service, like I'm guess you are in training
Yes,
period,
yes,
and
yes.
also like I am, from my point of view, I am a student in like third year of engineering, and I have like it's not have been my childhood dream to be an IAS or like UPSC aspirant or civil servant. But since after when I came to college, I saw that the scope of this service, like impacting the people's life and doing great things by like I have my opportunity to do something on myself, right,
Mm.
and impact many people's life. So this is the expectation which I have in my mind for the joining the service.
Mm.
So what do you see that you have been in the training,
Mm.
you must be in the field. So
Mm.
is it true to have these expectations from the service?
Yes, yes, definitely. It's 100% true. I mean, there's a lot you can do actually on the ground, and I mean, this is one service that brings you very close to the people itself. So in the initial, say, 5 to 10 years, you'll be working directly in the field, and there's a lot of work that you can do, a lot of impact that you can do, and definitely, if you have such expectations, this service will definitely fulfill those expectations. There's a lot of good work that you can do.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Yes, please.
Yeah, Suraj.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. I am Sir Suraj, sir. Sir,
Yes.
third year engineering student, sir. Sir, for PSIR optional, sir, which is the best resources, sir?
I will not be able to tell you much about the PSIR optional, but I'm sure you'll be able to find lots of strategies on the internet. It's a very popular optional, but I personally don't have any experience with that.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. I'm a BTech third year mechanical engineering student, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what kinds of syllabus we covered in general studies?
So there's a very detailed syllabus given in the UPSC notification, and there's several subjects. So, but the basic subjects, like I mentioned, polity, history, geography, economics. Then there's environment, science, and technology. Uh, so a lot of different subjects. UPSC covers a lot of different subjects, and you'll be able to find the detailed syllabus. They've done a very good job of detailing each and every point. And the good thing is usually most things are asked from the syllabus itself. Very
What
rarely,
kind,
yes.
what kind of syllabus covered in general science, sir?
In general science,
Yes, sir.
general science is basically a class 10th level science. It's not very difficult. And you all being from an engineering background, you will not have a lot of difficulty.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Rima, you were asking a question.
Yeah. Yeah, sir. Good morning.
Good
Sir,
morning.
I'm doing second year of engineering right now. And I have heard that we can start attempting this exam by the last year of our graduation. So,
I'm not sure about the eligibility. So one basic criteria is you have to be 21 years old, and
uh,
there is some cutoff. I think you have to have completed your graduation before some cutoff date. So I'm not sure. Again, it will be in the notification that UPSC releases on its website. So it's
uh,
best to look at that and confirm. I'm not sure if you can attempt it in your last year or not.
oh, okay, sir. And sir, one more thing. What is your opinion about creating a peer group like in college for doing
That's a
combined?
very good idea. I mean, you all can benefit and you can all help each other clear each other's doubts. So that is a good idea. I would,
Okay. Sir, also we'd love to hear your interview experience. If you,
my interview experience.
yeah, yeah.
So my interview experience again mostly from my DAF. My experience, my interview mostly it was around one economics. At that time, there were a lot of questions about slowdown because of COVID. So a lot of interview questions were and discussion was from that area and what I felt about it, what my opinion was about it. So they'll be mostly asking you opinion-based questions. Very rarely do they ask you very fact-based questions. So one, it was about that. Then there were a few questions from various things that I had mentioned in my DAF, and some other current affairs related questions. I don't remember the exact questions, but some IR related questions, I think. Uh, Mostly from current affairs and DAF, like I mentioned. Nothing very complicated.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have a question from Bipul. So he is asking that should he be joining a coaching or do you suggest self study like between those two?
So again, very personal choice. For me, I didn't have uh, a lot of background in civil service. I didn't have anybody in my family or in my close relatives who had appeared for the exam or cleared the exam. So for me, I felt that I needed some coaching because I needed some guidance regarding what all to study, what not to study. So if you feel you are in a similar situation, then you can go for coaching. But nowadays there's a lot of resources available on the internet also, and you can definitely do self study also. So I will not say that coaching is a must, but if you feel you need that extra help, then I mean there's nothing wrong in joining a coaching as well.
I hope that answers the question. Okay, Shashank.
Good morning, sir. Uh,
Good morning.
as we all know, this exam is a test of mentality too. So I would like to know if it's fine by you, sir. During your preparation days, what was your mentality, and did you consider this as the only option, or like you had alternatives on your hand? So, like
No,
about little bit about your journey, sir. That's
so I feel it's very important to have some sort of backup option. So during my I after my masters, I had dropped 1 year to prepare exclusively for this exam, and but after that, in my first attempt, I couldn't clear this the civil service exam. But I had given a lot of other exams as well. So there's an NABARD exam, there's an RBI exam, and I had cleared the Indian Economic Service. So I had joined the Indian Economic Service. So I had a backup option. And before I had cleared these exams, I had also applied for PhD in various institutes. So again, it's very important to have a backup of some sorts, because again, this exam is quite uncertain. So don't rely 100% solely on this exam only that you'll make it for sure. Very important to have some other sort of backup option in mind. Um, so one that, and regarding the mentality, of course, it's a very challenging phase because first it's a very long process. Usually you are preparing 1 year and then the exam process itself is another year. So it's a long drawn out process and you tend to get tired and frustrated at times. But it's important to be patient. And again, like you said, it's a test of your mentality and your ability to actually withstand that pressure. So it's important to have a strong support circle also. This is something that is quite important. Some friends you can talk to or your family, who you can talk to and seek guidance and support. So it's very important to have that sort of support circle. And of course, it's a difficult exam. Let's not sugarcoat it and say that anybody. It's not a very easy exam to crack, but I'm sure with patience, it's definitely doable. It's important to not lose hope in the middle of the process.
Sir,
I saw some questions in the chat also.
Hello, sir.
yeah.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Sir, which type of question they asked in personality test, sir?
Like I mentioned, mostly from your DAF. Usually it'll be opinion based questions on things that you have mentioned in your DAF, and from current affairs, whatever is happening those
Sir,
days.
sir,
And
deaf and current affairs, sir.
yes, DAF and current affairs. Mostly, and from your background subject also. So they might ask you some questions from engineering, they might ask you some questions from whatever optional subject you've chosen. Again, they can ask you anything, but mostly they try and stick to these topics only.
Sir,
Good
we have.
morning, sir.
Okay.
Good
Hello,
morning. Yes,
sir. My
please.
question is how to integrate the statics and dynamics part of the study. Sir, for instance, if I am learning the chapter about governor from Lakshmikant and I'm coming across an article in the newspaper regarding governor, so like 5 to 6 years down the line, how to integrate both of them and write a good answer, getting both the static as well as dynamic part.
See, uh, once you are into the preparation, you'll be reading the newspaper also, and you would have done a good amount of the static portion also. So I would say that comes automatically with practice, because if you have a question on governance, you will be writing some basic static. In the answer, you'll be writing some static portion, maybe some definitions, whatever the question is asking, and then you'll be supplementing it with examples. So one good thing that you can try is you can maintain a small diary of sorts, and maybe if you come across some good example or some good news article uh, showcasing some good governance practice, you can maybe just write down 2 3 lines about it in your diary. And once you are revising for the mains exam, just before the exam, you can go through that those examples, so that you can use those examples in your answers whenever such kind of questions come. But again, once you get into the hang of things, all this will become quite easy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Like we can take a question from the chat box. So Aditya has a question. Is there any preference for branch when we are from an engineering background?
So I'm not sure what you mean by this question.
Aditya,
There's no preference as such. Everybody is at the same level, because they don't look at your graduation marks or what background you have. They'll be, I mean, they'll just look at whatever scores you have in the mains, and there's no such uh, preference during the interview stage either. So there's no preference as such, but I'm not sure if I understood the question
if
correctly.
Aditya, and if you're here, like, can you unmute yourself? And because I also didn't understand the question. So,
Is there any preference for civil or mechanical or such branch
No,
in
no.
UPSC?
You mean in the interview stage or where? There's no such preference anywhere. No
Okay,
such
sir.
preference
Okay.
anywhere.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I am in third year, sir. Should I start answer writing from now, sir?
So, like I said, you should build up some good base of knowledge. Try and start newspaper reading, and maybe start reading some basic books from the main subjects. And after that, you can start answer writing practice. But maybe 2 3 months you can spend on actually learning about various concepts.
Okay, sir.
sir, around the answer writing practice only, Ayush has a question. How can you suggest how to do the answer writing? Like how to start with it? Like after you have had.
So, answer writing practice again, this is the same thing I've said. Build up a knowledge base, spend some time reading the basic books from the main subjects, and after that, you can start answer writing practice. So, there are multiple ways you can see which questions. You can either look at the previous year questions and try and write answers for those, or there are various websites on the internet, they post questions. You can try answer writing for those questions. But these are or maybe you can also attend mock tests, but that comes at a later stage, uh, when you've done quite a lot of preparation. So I would say either past year questions, you can pick up questions from past year papers, or you can look at the various websites that are there.
Guys, we still have more than 15 minutes, so you can put your questions in the chat box or unmute yourself.
Sir, can an average student crack this
Yes,
exam?
yes, definitely. I mean, there's no such thing as average or I mean, anybody can crack this exam. You just need to spend some good time and, like I said, not lose patience.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. Thank you,
Uh,
everybody. It was great talking to you, and all the best to everyone. And I'm sure all of you will do very well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for giving time, sir.
Thank you.